What is the weirdest thing you had to do at someone else's house because of their culture/religion? I used to have a job that rented a lot of houses and properties in Southern California. Part of my job was meeting with property owners and to close a deal with them. One day I go to this man's house in Laguna Beach, as in his house was on the beach. I was meeting with an insanely wealthy but also insanely nice Asian man who I had met a couple of times before, and we had somewhat of a work-type relationship. As I begin to bring up the deal to be made, he suggests we walk to the beach first. I was ready to get home. It was Saturday, so we start walking, talking about life, etc. He then proceeded to hold my hand, interlocked finger style, for the whole walk. I was originally weirded out by it, but when I brought it up to a coworker, he said it's just a part of their culture. He also made me wear his personal house slippers to be allowed entry into his home. Just cultural differences, but it still cracks me up that the most romantic beach walk I've ever had in my life was with an 75-something man millionaire. I remember seeing a picture of George W. Bush holding hands with Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah in 2005, just leisurely strolling through Bush's Texas ranch. I was so confused. I just looked at the pictures. Bush looks comfortable. It's kinda like a walking handshake. I'm glad he was respectful of the culture. I remember going to my Swedish friend's house. And while we were playing in his room, his mom yelled that dinner was ready. And check this. He told me to wait in his room while they ate. That shit was ducking wild. I slept over at a friend's house. When we woke up, he said Hess going downstairs for a few minutes. After about 15 minutes I go on the stairs to see WTF is happening, and they're eating breakfast. They see me and tell me Hess almost done and will be up there soon. I still think about that shit 25 years later. Went to a friend's house for dinner, a lovely meal. The whole family cleaned their plates of food, then turned them over and ate dessert on the back of their plates like it was the most normal thing in the world. I copied them just to be polite. This might be my favorite one here. The mental image of a family flipping their plates over to eat dessert is absolutely hilarious. Plot twist, they only do that when guests come over. I grew up in a town that was predominantly white. Whenever my parents had guests from church over for food, my Indian stepdad would end grace with, "And please God, let me wake up white tomorrow," and my entire pasty white Scottish family would nod in agreement and say amen. The guests would never know how to react, would act like it was a normal occurrence and never bring it up again. LMFAO. Was your stepdad Uncle Ruckus? Why would Uncle Ruckus wish to be white when he's already white? He's just got revitiligo. I went over to my friend's house to play DD in high school, and my friend's mom made lunch for the 7 of us. It was really good. We were just playing DD and eating tacos, and after we all finished the lunch, everyone started pulling out cash. I was super confused. My friend turned to me and asked, "Do you have your $5? So apparently we were supposed to pay for the meal. I was incredibly embarrassed. One of my other friends ended up paying for me. I never played DD at that house ever again. Edit, this happened in SoCal. They were just a standard American household as far as I was aware. The food was homemade. DD is Dungeons and Dragons. It's a role-playing game. Also, I can confirm that my friend was not taking the money. I literally saw him give it to his mom. Dunno what's weirder, the fact that they asked you to pay or the fact that the others were prepared. It's weird that they just expected it without any warning. Maybe they were left out of the discussion somehow. I wouldn't be offended about chipping in for groceries for a recurring event like DD meetups if I knew ahead of time. That shit can get pricey if your friends know how to eat. Well, by the sounds of it, it probably was an agreed thing, but they just forgot to tell Op for his first time. When I lived in Antwerp, Belgium, I once was stopped by an elderly woman on the street. She was asking for help inside her house. Guiding me through a house where the temperature was way too hot, she stopped at every radiator and asked me to turn them down. In the end we went to the kitchen, where some Jewish women and children were watching me silently while I was putting all the burning gas stoves on a low heat. Then she showed me out, thanked me and closed the door. In Antwerp there is a big community of Hasidic Jews. I can imagine this was during Sabbath. Correct. They can't adjust fire on the Sabbath. So they asked a Gentile to do it for them. There are limitations on that as well. Limitations on what they can ask a non-Jewish person to do for them? Not on what they can ask, but more how they ask. Officially, they can't ask outright, but they can hint at it to be done. This way, It's not as though they directly caused something to be done which they are not allowed to, but rather the non-Jew did it themselves. Not sit on the furniture because only the males were allowed to. Kneel facing the wall while the 3 males in the house stood behind me and prayed in a cadence that got louder and louder until they were screaming about how to wear makeup is to create attraction. To create attraction is to create lust, and to create lust is to sin. I was 18 and wearing makeup. Legit, I thought I was about to be beheaded. I was kicked out of elementary school friend's birthday party because another friend and I played witches in her treehouse. She was Southern Baptist. There was a literal cauldron in her treehouse. I stand by my decision. I am reminded of the story on Reddit where a girl went to her boyfriend's parents' house to meet them, and they had a ritual where they gather around a table and savagely consume an entire orange, skin and all. She didn't do it, and she upset the entire family. I think it's my favorite story from Reddit. Reddit.com. Worked nights for a while. Rented a house in a suburban area with heavy Jewish population. One morning at 8 a.m. got a knock at the door. Got home from work at 4 a.m. So, I'm instantly annoyed, so annoyed that I answer the door in my boxers. 3 little kids all look up at me. I sighed heavily and used the door to cover my nearly naked body. They squeaked up, "Can you turn off our fire?" At first I thought to tell them to just call the police and then said, "Wait, do you mean your stove?" Was answered in the affirmative. I quickly got dressed, went over and knocked on the door. The wife of the house opened the door and quickly pulled me in by my shirt. I looked around quickly and there was very little furniture in the house. Their kitchen table was a folding table with plastic chair and a bunch of men around it talking about the Islamic Brotherhood. The wife asked me to press one button on her electric stove, did it, then was very briskly pushed out of the house. I understand their religious practices. Still weird. Promptly went back to bed. Congrats, you're a Shabbos goy. #X200B, you know some people charge for that. My parents bought a strange range for the kitchen. They needed an indoor grill and it has Sabbath mode. So you can start the cooking the day before, and the thing will turn itself off so that nobody has to work. It's very interesting seeing the theoretical religious lines around what is considered work. Drinking only milk for dinner. Don't get me wrong, I like milk and will freely drink it at times, but one time at my high school girlfriend's house I had dinner. I was helping set the table and her mom started to pour milk in all the glasses. Not wanting to be rude and ask for soda or something, I simply said, "I'll just have water." She replied with, "The Bible says milk is served with supper." No clue if this is a thing or not. It was the first and last time I've ever heard it, but the memory has stuck with me 20 plus years later. Edit 1. Sorry to all the people who got scammed thinking it was a story about drinking only milk without food. There was food, don't remember what, but I see how the first line can seem otherwise. Edit 2. Thank you everyone mentioning quoting the McPoyles. I've never heard of them and I've only seen a few episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Now I have something new to watch. Late to the game, but here goes. I had a friend growing up whose parents didn't allow any snacks in the house. Every time he invited me over to spend the night, I was expected to bring boxes of snack food because it could be allowed if brought in by an outsider. And yes, his parents would partake, too. So there was junior high school aged Higastosh bringing boxes of snacks for an entire family to have a cheat night at my expense. This sounds like the opposite of how it's supposed to work. One family doesn't have good snack food, so the kid hangs out with his friend who does. Man, I remember my childhood friend who had all the Frito-Lay and Nabisco contraband that was never in my house. Who were you hanging out at their place was rad. I grew up in a highly Mormon area, so most of my friends in school were Mormon, and I was occasionally invited into their more intimate holiday celebrations. For example, one year, they gave me bags of food and drove me to a random house, then told me I had to go in and deliver the bags to the people inside, a big family who currently have no means of financial support, as a secret Santa. It was a wonderful gesture, but I felt really awkward being asked to do this in a stranger's house, but they asked me to do it for the expressed reason that I was a stranger, and they wouldn't know who had donated the food. I've organized some Secret Santa projects for families in need over the years, and I always hated delivering presents when the family was home. They were always grateful and kind, but it's really awkward and I don't really want to be thanked. It's like it cheapens the gesture. And I think it's better for the receivers to not have faces connected with the gifts. It was always better when just the mom was home or a friend let us in. It's better anonymous. The trick is to get a delivery person who has no affiliation with it. We do this for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Our group sets up all the donations, collects them, combines them into the packages, etc. Then we put out an ad for a delivery driver and we pay them even though we do it all for free. It takes the awareness out of it and allows it to stay anonymous.